It's actually very lightweight. It allows for real-time registrations. It's a text-only type of system. It will only require enough information to generate the zone files and identify which registrar has what domains. There will be no contact information or registrant information held in the registry. All that will be required to be held at the registrar. Why is this going to be lightweight? Well, there's a number of problems, and one is we're trying to move all this to the registrars. One is internationalization is a problem, and that's moved to the registrar so that you can have localization. Second thing is that privacy issues, again, are moved to the registrar because different areas of the world have different sorts of policies dealing with privacy. And the next thing is that you can differentiate services between registrars more easily. Transport will be through SSL, and there will be a web interface available for the registrars for their particular reports. Now, there's a caveat. And the caveat is that this may all change because there's a number of things that Amendment 11 specifies in terms of what needs to happen with this remote registry protocol. The first thing is that this NUCO is going to appoint 10 people to review the protocol, and things may change out of that. Second thing is that the government needs to approve this, and that's where it currently stands. And the third thing is that WIPO needs to also give their recommendations of how this is all to go. And it's unknown how negotiations are going to proceed in this manner, and so it's all up in the air. And here finally is the URL for this presentation. It'll probably be up towards the end of this week, first part of next week. Any questions?
How are your plans for doing backups of your back-end database and recovery of that in case something happens to your offices coming along? There was an IUPG presentation I gave talking about how we were planning on backing up the root servers and soliciting for advice on how to do this, and do we do it in real time or not. It's going along. We have a backup site in Charlottesville right now that's going to be decommissioned and moved to PAX. It's unclear to me exactly how things are going to proceed in terms of how we're going to replicate our back-end systems from our site to some other place. There is work going on there.
What comments do you have about the hijacking, you might call it, of AOL.com, and what things are being done to make that less likely in the future?
There was a system that was implemented about two and a half years ago called Guardian, and there's mail from, which is easily spoofed, and that's basically what happened to AOL. They were spoofed by a particular person out there on the internet. The second time is crypt password, which means that you have to have password protection, and the third type is PGP. And it depends how paranoid you feel about this. You certainly ought to be looking into Guardian and either using crypt password or PGP based on what sorts of things you want to go on. PGP is actually fairly hard for people who are out there first time dealing with this sort of thing, but it's certainly the most secure.
You covered this a little bit, I think, in one of your comments, but a couple of months ago, I think it was, there was this outfit that had mined your database, probably using Whois or whatever, and we're going to sell the whole thing on a CD, and then there was a big uproar about it, and they backed out. Do you have any other comments about that?
It's interesting because there's people that obviously have their own religious views of what this data is meant for and what's its purpose and who owns it and all this other kinds of stuff. And you kind of have to play keeping the information as restricted as possible, but also making it available. And if you make it available, that allows for people like spammers to come in and actually take a significant portion of it.
This is a game that we've been playing for years. Restricting the number of queries against whois is one, restricting zone file access is another, and there may be some more things going on in the future to try to restrict it even more so this sort of abuse won't happen.
A couple of things about contact information. One, I would really appreciate it if you would stop selling my name as a contact to various people for selling the IP services, because it's really irritating to get paper mail spam that's obviously coming from this sort of registration information. The other is, obviously if you're moving these things so that the contact information is kept on the registrar side, where the registry side is where whois is going to be accessed, how are we supposed to figure out which registrar information is coming through what channel? Have you set some sort of standard so it's our whois, plus, some sort of distributed whois mechanism for pulling that? Or are we going to have to go to each registrar to pull the information through whatever channel they provide? If that's the case, please include in your database design the contact method for the registrar as one of the things that's part of each registration.
Okay. Basically, you asked two questions there. The first one is, don't sell my data. We're not the ones selling your data. Other people are gleaning our database, getting that information, and selling it through spam houses and stuff like that. This is one of the things that I personally would like to stop. So, in the ways that we would have to do this is actually restricting zone file access to people out there even further, and restricting whois access even further. And there's going to certainly be an outcry if we actually do that.
There actually was also a job posting for somebody posted, I think, to NANIC, certainly to IETF, of a business development person to sell this data to spammers. That was really what I was referring to on the first one. But let's concentrate on the second one.
Okay, the second one, if you follow the whois, I'm one of the originators of that protocol. I think that you'll find that there's going to be some sort of referral mechanism in this next generation whois to point you towards the registrar who has your contact information.
Two things. Some of the problems previously alluded to, I think, could be avoided if you did not sort of conflate your private business contact data with public information contact data. I see no reason why you publish the billing contact, for example, in whois. There should be an account with access for the appropriate people, and if they need to change the billing contact, they can change it. And there's other similar sorts of things.
Mm-hmm.
My technical question is, are you ever going to implement before use on handles?
This is something I've personally been fighting for. Operations people